I hope you are having a great start to your holiday season. Today we're going to pick up with a video answering your questions. So you can think of this a little bit like local AI FAQ 2, but I'm going to go through, look at what you guys have asked questions about, and I'm going to reply to you with a timestamp in this video, so that'll be the chapters basically. We'll start off here with a question by MDK Rush. I just ordered an AMD EPYC 7F52 Plus Supermicro H12 SSL 16 core 32 thread, 3.5 gigahertz up to 3.9. Yeah, so the base is 3.5, the turbo's 3.9, and the F in that is a frequency optimized chip. So that is a very good chip for single thread performance. And it is 240 watts based on your suggestion. So that was one of many suggestions, but generally speaking, the EPYCs are going to perform pretty well if you can get a higher thread speed for sure. I know it's not the same CPU that was in the bundle that I suggested. Yeah, so I think I'm using a 7702, a little bit different, definitely has a lot more cores, doesn't have as high of a single thread turbo boost though, so it caps out at 3.35 versus 3.9, and that will be an appreciable difference. Will this CPU do okay? Yeah, that CPU is actually a stomper. So I think when you say, will this CPU do okay, you mean, will it do okay for CPU-based inference? So in that sense, let's talk about that. So yes, the faster your single thread speed, the better you're gonna do, and definitely as the frequency optimized EPYCs will do pretty darn good. So you are looking at faster token propagation. We proved this in a video that we did quite some time ago, actually a little bit over a year, maybe a year and a half ago now. So yes, that CPU will do good. If you're looking at the system bandwidth, that has to do with how many DIMM slots are populated on your motherboard. So if you have 8 DIMM slots and you populate 8, you're going to be able to hit the maximum theoretical bandwidth, which on a second gen Rome EPYC is going to be 204 gigabytes per second. So if you have less than that populated, then it's going to be reduced. So always keep in mind the number of DIMM slots you have is the number of CCD, kind of like there's an alignment between CCD. The 7F52 should be in the it's going to be okay class here. So it might be a little bit marginal to try to hit 204 totally. So you may, with that CPU, not fully be able to hit all the way to the maximum CPU bandwidth. That is based upon my observations with a 7702P, so I can't say that exactly translates. There are some thoughts about that that are out there on the internet, but you definitely are looking, if you have, and reading a little further here, you have 128 gigabyte RAM kit for it. So if you're only gonna be populating 4 DIMM slots, then that RAM kit is going to probably be pretty good, and you're probably going to cap out somewhere around 102, 105, something like that for your gigabytes per second. I'm just going to guess that you got 32 gigabyte modules because 64 gigabyte modules right now, insane. I have one 4090 and am considering 4 more 5060 Ti 16 gigabytes. So, okay, I like the concept, and I've talked about it a lot on the channel, of a lead GPU and having kind of the follower GPUs that are behind that. I would typically say that you don't want to have a significant difference that is tremendous between them. The 4090, a great lead generation GPU, still for doing things like video generation and image generation. That single fastest GPU is really what you want. And we'll pull out the rig here. I'm trying to actually get this thing into the rack, and it has been a huge problem to get it into the rack. So many modifications have had to happen for that. We'll cover all that here in a bit. But the 4 5060 Ti 16 gigabytes, I would suggest no. 4 would definitely be the maximum that I would want to get of the 5060 Ti's. 3 would be kind of ideal. So, I mean, and that way you have 4 total GPUs. I think that might work a little bit better. The sharding in Llama C++ and the comments on a VLLM video. So VLLM brings a lot of weirdness if you try to split GPUs into like 1 GPU, 2 GPU, 4 GPU, 8 GPU, 16 GPUs. Those are going to work just fine in VLLM. If you start splitting it, the number of heads is going to start impacting you, and you'll get warnings about this. So if you're using like 6 GPUs, you're going to have to do some like serious shenanigans to possibly get it to work. And there are many instances where it will not work. So in particular with VLLM, I would urge you to think in pairs of like the total number of GPUs you have is 4. So that's why I would say in your scenario with one 4090, you would probably be looking at like 3 additional GPUs because that puts you right at that 4, and that'll split up pretty nicely. considering going to Proxmox 9, is GPU pass-through easier? So it's just as easy. There's nothing additional that you're going to need to do. And on NVIDIA GPUs, just follow along with the guides that we've done. Works almost exactly the same. I will say this, the 5060 Ti's, you need to install the MIT driver instead of the proprietary driver, but the 4090 will use the MIT driver just fine also. And for inference purposes, it'll work a-okay. Have you tried AnythingLLM? Yes, I have. I find it much faster than Openwebui. Still use both. So my guess is here that you're using AnythingLLM on a desktop and Openwebui maybe on a server. Your server class hardware is going to have, like I mentioned, single thread speed performance impacts. Now, if you're using them on the same machine, that's kind of interesting. AnythingLLM, there is a bigger differentiator between AnythingLLM and Openwebui. So we have multiple people using Openwebui in the house. So AnythingLLM really doesn't work out quite as well because all of a sudden it's localized to that machine and you need GPU resources on that machine, or slash you can't run the biggest GPU stuff on that machine. So I would say, you know, AnythingLLM also has great software. It looks very well flushed out, and especially if you're doing document stuff, it's probably one of the easier ways to get up and going. But Openwebui definitely has by far a huge lead still. So yeah, we use Openwebui. Have tried out AnythingLLM. Think it's really good software actually. If you're just a single user on a single machine. What happens if the pins are? Oh dear, Moria. I've been there. What happens if the pins are a little bit and you put the CPU in anyway? Well, a lot of things can happen. So you could end up shorting out your CPU, you could short out your motherboard, you could definitely cause damage. It depends which pins are shorted and what they're touching. So in general, like, you don't want to have them totally smushed. If they're totally smushed, don't bother. You're definitely going to damage everything else that you put in there, possibly like a CPU. So don't do that. Now, if they're just a little bit bent, maybe you can get by with it. But really, the best thing to do is try to straighten it out. Phil D83, Intel B850s any good here? So if you're doing local AI, like prefaces like this, you should always bias towards most gigabytes of VRAM that you can afford. The B580s, I'll link some down below in the description. They are pretty good priced. Intel in general, I have some qualms about where they're at as far as some of the stuff that they're producing, but I think it's going to be okay. I think they're heading in a right direction finally, so I'm excited. And I really wish they would bring SRIOV to all of their GPUs. That would make all of that would like differentiate, and they need to differentiate in this realm, and they should give that away for free. Nobody gives it away for free, seemingly. It just, you know, and like I know the B50's got the promise of it, and it's like, but where is it? So the B580s, I would say, if you find them at a good price, yeah, you could consider them. Will they shard with multiple? I can't tell you that, but definitely if you do check that out, let me know in the comments below. So Lord Captain, so time to get your shard on. Of course, absolutely. Multi-GPU rigs are definitely about that. Petrus, what are your thoughts on the RTX A2000 from eBay? Being that the EU, they float around 350 to 480 euros. So that's about $410 to $560. I was thinking of using it in my 2U server chassis. So like 2U server chassis tells me a lot right there. Yes, you should definitely consider the A2000. It's probably going to be one of the best performers you can get in a low profile GPU. Now, I wish they weren't like fatties. But you know, it is what it is for cooling. I do like the A2000. It's got a lot of very good benefits to it, and I certainly would recommend going with NVIDIA. If you can go with NVIDIA, it is going to be pretty damn good. It's going to do all the different stuff you want, and if you're looking for an all-in-one GPU, definitely NVIDIA is still my recommendation. Other cards don't fit the standard way. Yeah, I bet they don't. The LP5050 or 5060 only have 8 gigabytes of VRAM. So there is a 5060 that does have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and like this dude right here, 16 gigabytes of VRAM, $429. I think the 5060 Ti that has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, pretty good. Will it fit in a 2U chassis? I don't think so. Especially because they're going to have side plug power. So side plug power is always going to be a little bit of a pain in a server versus kind of plugging it into the rear of it. Then you found the Arc Pro B50. Look, I think the Arc Pro B50 is actually a kind of exciting card. Like, I really wish they had everything flushed out on the driver's side already when they launched the card. And I wish the card was released in normal channels so everybody could go and buy one at like Amazon. Like, really? You can't go. This is so classic. They release a Pro thing. They don't supply enough of them. Or like, that's what happened with the B580. So they didn't supply enough of it. It was a 12 gigabyte GPU at a good price, was not able to hit MSRP. This is a classic problem with GPUs, but like undersupply and supplying the wrong channels is huge. And the Arc B50 is like, you can't go and buy one on Amazon. That's a pretty big problem in my opinion. I think most people out there are gonna definitely go towards that. So I have no qualms about saying Intel is their own worst enemy. Whoever their person is in charge of picking markets that they're gonna go and sell these things in should be absolutely fired. But I ran into many issues getting my RTX 7070 XT running with ROCm. Yeah, so I think, you know, I have it out here. You're gonna know all of these GPUs. I'm gonna show you the chassis and how I'm like trying to put it in to there. There's a lot of issues with that, but definitely having it rack mounted would be pretty cool. I would say, yeah, you know, AMD is coming a long way and they're getting better and better. Certainly, of course, though, what I said still holds NVIDIA. If you want easy, if you want it to work with everything, and if you don't want to be like, well, why did it stop working? Yeah, I think it's not a bad way to go. I would definitely consider the A2000. Do you really need to power it off? I thought they were hot swappable. Oh yeah, this person. So I actually gave them a thoughtful reply here. So the reason why you should power it off is because if you have a single UPS and it's a single battery UPS unit, like there's just one battery to swap in and out. If you pull that battery out, but essentially you have an unprotected unit. So yeah, it's best to power it down, especially if you have like ZFS running or something like that with your important datas on it and you don't want to crash it out like catastrophically or anything. Especially if you have lesser file systems, then you're really in for some hurt if you do that. I would also say one thing I forgot to write in here is make sure that your plug that you have it on is not on a wall switch. That one can come back and bite you. And I even put in there at the end, you know, stupid things happen at the worst time. And so I had a wall switch that was controlling a UPS. I had pulled the battery out. I had tested the battery with my multimeter. I was like, oh, I need to order some batteries. I just kind of left it in that state. I really didn't think about it. And somebody shut off the wall switch. So these things happen, you know. That's what I'm saying when I'm saying if you have two UPSs, with, you know, dual PSUs. Like that's really the way that you go about being safe. So it's best to just shut it down just because it'll be a little bit more resilient to stupid things happening. Somebody asked if it can run Minecraft. Bro, all of this stuff can run like 500 Minecraft servers. Like, yeah, easy. No, now it's time for Quad Quint 4090 setup. So I do love my 4090s. I definitely want to sell one of them because I think I can buy two 3090s and I want two more 3090s more than I want one 4090. Having a single 4090 though is pretty freaking awesome still. I definitely get great performance out of it, and I mean, if you're looking at image and video generation, they do really, really well. I don't think the supers are gonna come out in the market. I think those are gonna be canceled. I mean, we see now today Samsung saying that the Evo line of like SSDs is not gonna be something they produce. I expect a lot of others to follow. Consumer, anything that has flash memory processing involved in it is gonna be under either price pressure or production pressure. That's gonna happen all of 2026. It's gonna be bad. So definitely factor that in if you're looking at expanding in certain ways. Could you also check the wattage on image and video generation? Yeah, so if I uncap it on image generation or video generation, it runs full bore and it'll hit 450 watts on the 4090s. So I can tell you that already. And that particular rig, it's like 750 watts. So you definitely want to have, at a minimum, if you had just one 4090, at least 1,000 watt power supply, in my opinion. And that, of course, was with a Ryzen. Can you share GPU compute over a network? So there is network-based GPU sharing. There is multiple types of network-based GPU sharing to gain reasonable speed up between two computers. Okay, so if you're using VLLM, this is a good, so Ray and VLLM. If you have the same model that fits fully into, let's say you've got 4 GPUs on one and 4 GPUs on the other, exact same setup kind of, just for simplicity's sakes. If you're running the model that fits fully in here, and you're running the model that fits fully in here, yeah, you can see a speed up that is fairly significant, not insane, not double, but maybe 30, 40% more if you combine those two together. Now, that means though that you're essentially saying, hey, I'm not running the biggest model that I could fit in two. So that's not sharding in the sense that you might think. So when you're thinking about that, no, your performance goes down. Definitely with 100 gigabit networking that I've got here, I've been able to test this out, and I have not been able to see anything that looks even remotely like what I would suspect most people were hoping for. That has a huge, like, I hate to say it, but like RDMA over 100 gigabit network connections are not fast enough. And it's like, how much money do you invest in something starts to become a really big question. Now, let's draw a line here. You want to ask Opus a question, have it come up with some code. That one question could easily cost you $1 on OpenRouter. So like, I mean, it's not that it's a bad model, but like $1 per question is insane. So you definitely want to be able to run large local models that are saving you money. I mean, GPT 5.2, I don't even understand how HR-y it got. Like, it's just like you're talking to HR, its code quality is garbage, and I don't know what this regression that OpenAI's got going on is. They should release more open source stuff. That's what I will say also. Take that for what you will, but I mean, you want to run that big model. You want to run it on 2 computers. You want to have half of the model living here, half of the model living there. That way you can share those resources to run the bigger model. And like, we're at 1 trillion for local LLMs. Like, holy cow, like how many GPUs do you got? That really becomes a huge question. So finding good compromises is really what local AI is all about. Pushing the frontier is going to get insanely expensive. I mean, I see other creators recommending things like RTX 6000s. Like, I'm not recommending you go buy a $8,000, $9,000 GPU with 96 gigabytes of VRAM for multiple reasons, but still, like, it's the economics of it. Like, if you can already do that, then great, but boy, is that a good idea? Well, I don't know. I would say, you know, if you're looking at a $20,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 of hardware, you really definitely want to spend some time with a spreadsheet. Chris Clark, 9050. Love the build video question, doing an epic build myself on a 7443P. But I was looking at the cooler you had listed in the description and noticed the SP6 cooler, but you're using SP3. Yeah, okay, common question. So all of these things, they have a little bit different tension on them. The mount points are the same, so you can just either kind of adjust down with a little torque screwdriver. So that's really the biggest difference that you have is the mount pressure that you've got between the two. All the epics, all the Threadrippers, aside from the like 1 series, like the first generation, I don't know about those, but definitely from Rome on, I've used interchangeably, even on my 7995WX, the same coolers. So they fit, you just need to adjust the mount pressure a little bit. Oh, this one, I wanted to answer this one just so I can show people. Don't ask questions like this in this format. Can someone solve this problem for me? I have an RTX 5060 Ti and I have the latest GPU driver and installed PyTorch, but still, when I try to run Comfy UI, it says install latest NVIDIA drivers. What should I do? So I think if you're looking at the 5060 Ti, you need to, of course, use the MIT drivers. But what you really need to do is drop a lot more details. Like, I don't understand, like, are you on Linux? Are you on Windows? Like, a lot of stuff there that you left out. So when you're asking a question, if you want me to answer it, definitely put details in. This one's a good example of just a bot. So I've been aware for some time now that there are significant amounts of bots asking really complex questions that can eat significant amounts of my time. I'll say it with that S word instead, significant amounts of my time. So you see here, it's the same exact question, 2 different people asking it. Ahmed M11 probably being the real one, and then Buzz person, like, yeah. So, I mean, I'm not even gonna answer that, because I don't answer bot questions. If you're a human, ask me a question. If you're a bot, figure it out. PKMH2CX. Where I am, 5060 Ti is 430 euros, 5070 Ti 770. I am looking for an eGPU setup. Okay, something fun. Like, I've been working on some other, like, outside the common thought boxes. M.2 to PCIe adapter. These are actually stupidly cheap. Links to these in the description below. They're like 10 bucks pop. And it does have power. Now, you're gonna note this power is inadequate for full GPU power delivery. However, all we're delivering over the USB cable in any USB cable riser setup is essentially signal. And so signal can definitely be powered by this. So this goes into M.2, riser goes into this, boom. Then you've got a 6-pin power here, which 6-pin power, okay. Molex, kind of okay. You only probably want to use like 1 or so. SATA power directly connected to a riser that has a GPU on it. Definitely never do that. Never ever. There's never a scenario where it's okay. So don't ever ask, don't ever do it. 6-pin, or Molex only. But yeah, this right here, ingenious little thing, possibly able to squeak out some extra. If you're looking at that total cost, that would be somewhere around 20 bucks. And that could be added in. A lot of motherboards have M.2 slots also. And for inference, again, say this one most common question on the channel, inference, it does not matter if you are at PCIe 3 at 1x wide width for the speed, you know, it doesn't matter. Your model load time will be a little bit slower because it's going at like 1 gigabyte per second. But like the model load time is like, it's a one-time penalty. And then the rest of it after that, it's not going to impact your inference in any meaningful way. So you can definitely do that. So keep that in mind for eGPU setups. Inference related, you're not going to run into huge impacts. If you're looking at video model generation, you may, because full bandwidth is something that is very critical there. So having the fastest single GPU with the most VRAM on a full width bus at the highest generation speed negotiated does become pretty critical in that scenario if you're looking for really the fastest generation time for video. So it comes down to your use case. Is the 5070 performing 30 to 40% better? Yeah, it should in most tasks. Is it worth it? Well, I think, you know, if you're definitely looking at just a single GPU setup, you want the best performance you can get. And so definitely I would bias, however, on the side of having the most VRAM possible. And 750 euros, can you get a 3090 is going to be the big question, because 5070 Ti 16 gigabytes, you're going to be happier if you get the full 24 gigabytes of VRAM because you will be able to fit more in it. Said it a lot on the channel, saying it one more time. If so, I think it's worth it. Have you tested it? I have not tested that. I look forward to building a Cube cluster with this GPU. Yeah, so GPUs and Cube are one of the things that, I mean, I use LXC for a reason. Docker is pretty easy also. Of course, VMs work as well. Cube, that one I have not done. Wayne Trout, 6977. Is it possible to get one of the cards that has video out issues to just use it for the VRAM to run like an LLM? So like a semi-defective GPU that has garbled video output possibly, or non-existing video output. So that's a hard question to answer. Is it a VRM issue that you've got? That could be a bigger issue that could come and impact things down the pipeline. Is it a dirty connector? I would definitely start with, is it a dirty connector? Because I mean, I've seen some abysmally dirty connectors in the past, so it could be something as simple as that. I mean, yeah, I would say negotiate down the best price you can get, but you could use it for that. Is it a good idea? Well, it's a risky idea, so that's my take. Sigma's Technica asks, when can I sell this 512 gigabyte DDR4 LRDIMM and retire off the profit? I think it's coming soon if it's not already here, especially if you got that 3200 speed. Woo! Yeah, oddly, if people have been following this channel and putting together rigs up until the past month and a half, 2 months, windfall profits if you go and sell your stuff right now. So keep that in mind. I definitely think selling some RAM is in my future. Let's see. So, Martin O'Reilly here says, that is a beefy looking system you have there. Is it open to keep it cool? So these are mining rig frames from like Ethereum mining. They became pretty popular for that. So they were mass produced in insane numbers. So there's just tons of them still. GPU mining is not a thing anymore, really. But definitely the openness of the racks do help keeping it cool. I mean, they definitely help keeping it cool. I mean, there's other hazards. If you have a small child, if you have a small animal, if you have a large animal, you wouldn't really probably want to have that. As far as noise, I mean, I never would have thought this. The quietest computer in the house, by not even a small amount, is that. It's crazy. I know, it's crazy. But it is very, very good at letting heat just waft off, if you will. Now, I do have some very silent fans on it, and I definitely think you should have some fans that are hitting the system board. Your system board doesn't need to just sit there and have like its North Bridge just uncooled and stuff like that. So definitely have some system fans running on it. But I love these OpenReg frames, and I guess I'll take now as a chance to show you what we're gonna have to move the camera. So just don't hit stop or anything. Just pick it up and move it over there if you can. And so the cool thing about these is also they will fit inside your 19-inch rack. Yes. However, that means cable management has to be changed dramatically. Layout of PSUs Super doesn't work because of the way they're plugged in, but there are heavy duty rail slides that you can get for trays that just are very heavy duty. They're not cheap, but for maybe 200 bucks, you can get one that can hold probably a, no problem 100-pound kind of rig setup. And when you have this puppy all loaded up with 8 GPUs, it gets quite heavy. 2 PSUs on that also definitely gets heavy. And then have that to where it can slide in and out, kind of like the KVM. That would be really cool. And I created a space here that's specifically for that in the new rack layout. So I wanted to take a chance to get one of them in here if I could. And I think I'm going to be able to. So make sure you hit like and subscribe as we eventually get that done. So yes, in short, that openness does help to keep it cool. And I mean, everything that you can do to keep your GPUs cooler is something that I would recommend you do up front. And having one of those cases does work out pretty well for that. David Barnes 3110. My only question when it comes to the coming AI revolution is, are we looking at a Terminator scenario or is this going to become the Matrix? Both fairly as far as the human standpoint in them. I don't know. I don't think it's either of those. Personally, I don't think it's either of those. I think we're still very, very, very early. I don't think we're going to get to where most people think we're going to get to with LLMs. So my personal viewpoint is LLMs are not getting us there. You've already seen all the major people that were hyping LLMs and AGI tomorrow. I mean, Garage AGI, if you don't know, if you are incapable of detecting sarcasm, Garage AGI has been kind of a moniker of this channel that I invented that has been an ongoing like joke. Garage AGI soon. Garage AGI win. AGI and LLMs probably isn't happening. It'd probably need a different technology to push us there. Reality check 1984. Any issues with the GPU sitting in those risers with the risers only supported on one side? No, I haven't ran into any issues. And I actually did, I know what you're talking about, like having them supported just kind of on the back. And the reality is sometimes they could try to pivot down like that, but like probably once every month or so, I clean out the rig and I also make sure that the risers are pushed up just a little bit. I haven't had any issues with them sliding all the way off. I would say that there probably are, when you're dealing with those full fat risers, there's better ways to do all of it. And I'm struggling to, I'm attempting to come up with the best recommendations for ways to do it that don't necessarily rely on that mounting methodology at all. There's a lot of options that I've done in the past that could work here, but they're very much not user-friendly, so I'm not sure a lot of people are going to use them. But they could make a presentation on this channel. You might be surprised what we do next. Never know. Death Cometh 61. When is the next Proxmox video? Put Battlefield down. Look, I'm only at like, well, my ranks improved quite a bit in Battlefield 6. But definitely the next Proxmox video probably is a little bit of time off here. I think there's going to be 3 other videos that come before the next Proxmox video. And I think you're going to definitely want to hit like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when those next videos come out, because there are some high production lift ones that are in the works and going to be pretty cool. Syndicate Shannon. Would you please clarify your call to action and expected benefits? For example, the call to action is teach your friends and family to run local AI, or teach others that AI is distinct from OpenAI. Yeah, definitely. I think I replied to that, like, kind of. When talking to your family about AI, which I am guessing you all do, but I don't know. Yes, educate them that there's a wider world of AI. I mean, AI is such a, it's a crazy word to use for like LLMs and machine learning, but versus just ChatGPT. And this gets back to what I was saying in the past, like ChatGPT, AI, and OpenAI are all synonymous. And this is why like OpenAI is, whether you like it or not, they're just the market leader. And I mean, I'm sure Anthropic thinks about this all the time. Like they just have that momentum and they're like second, and like OpenAI is by not a small margin first. It doesn't matter the quality of the models, clearly. It just matters what people associate. And ChatGPT is universally accepted. So yeah, I mean, if you talk to your family and stuff like that, you raise their education. Will it make a wider picture, like impact on things out there? I couldn't tell you, but it doesn't hurt to be optimistic and think that it could at some point make a bigger impact. Any videos on how it compares to the 3060 for local RAG LLMs? So I did not do a RAG comparison between the 5060 Ti and the 3060, but it would be a bit, it would be a little bit, but it would not be tremendous. In my opinion, it would be, depending upon how many documents you're processing through, it could save you some time. Would it be something I would go and do just for that? I would not. Without Crucial, what other reputable brands is there? Oh, for RAM. So it gets harder and harder as fewer and fewer manufacturers exist. And I think we're going to definitely see that those days are coming close to us. And I mean, really, it's the Micron aspect that, and Micron's a good, they make a good piece of product. I will say that. I have always thought that in the past about their kit. I feel like it's a good piece of product. SK Hynix, good piece of product. Samsung is the one that I've usually in the past been a little bit like, But I mean, all of them are gearing towards how do we get out of consumer and just deal with data center. And like, it's gonna be interesting what happens. Active SPN1N says, man, 2026 is going to be effed. And I haven't dropped the rest of my predictions. Let me drop more predictions. Sometimes it does double report this. So the rest of my predictions are inflation in the US is going to go higher by a lot. How you hedge against that, I'm not exactly certain. That's going to also impact your purchasing power that you're going to have. This coupled with everything else, it's like the perfect storm of inaccessibility of a lot of consumer hardware that you're going to have. There are still options out there. I've seen people buying, 32 gigabyte kits that are coming with things like 5820s and stuff like that on eBay. That's a really ingenious way because clearly those people probably forgot that they had the RAM still included in those kits. You pop the side off that, you just use it and stick a bunch of risers in it and come up with some hanger method to set on top of it. You have yourself a pretty good solution there. And the really cool thing is you get the 32 gigabytes of RAM for essentially, if you can find one of those listings for free. I'll drop some of those in the links below, but there's interesting ways to go about it. It is going to be an absolute much more difficult go to retail kind of thing. And this is a great chance for me to thank our sponsors. Our sponsors are not sponsors. Our sponsors are you, the channel audience. So this channel takes a much different approach to how we produce content as far as where money come from. And really, I thank the members. I thank the Buy Me a Coffees. I thank the Patreons because that is where our money come from. And also, of course, we use affiliate links and that makes me find good recommendations. And that is, if I can't find a good recommendation for something, of course, much more difficult. And like, dude, it's hard right now to find those good recommendations out there. But definitely, if I see things, you can definitely expect those to show up either on the website, digitalspaceport.com, or on videos. Definitely, I think there'll be more videos probably in the near future about some things that I think are still decent options. But definitely, if you're looking at 2026, it's gonna be a mess as far as prices, as far as availability. It's gonna be hard to put together a system. Elementary Watson 648, would you consider a weekly update of what you're doing with your system next to you? Yeah, so at this moment, I'm trying to fit it into the rack because I want to come up with a rack modification plan so that you can, I don't want people to have to get into full metal fabrication. I don't want you to have to bring out a rivet gun. Those are the two kind of, I don't want to cross that threshold. I don't want you to have to saw metal in half, but there are options out there that may work that do not involve sawing anything or cutting anything that still you could put together pretty easily. And maybe people are interested in sawing metal and riveting stuff, but if you are, then I mean, I'm not going to be your guide most likely. You're already going to do that. So there is some thresholds. So getting that into the server rack is one of the biggest things. Getting 8 GPUs running on it and in the server rack is the biggest thing I want to do. I was able to definitely get 6 running on it very successfully. Got it up to 7 running successfully. Really VLM dictates that you have 8. So really need to get to 8. Like 6, 7, 5, useless numbers for VLLM. You're gonna run into attention head problems. I am like hard sold on VLLM also, by the way. In case you can't, I'm VLLM pilled. I am very much in the favor of VLLM. It's great, it's great software. How did you get the two 4090s in there? So I got the two 4090s in there on, one of them was on a riser, not with this. And the other was just on a cheaper riser that I had. This little one right here. And so the motherboard that I used comes with quite a few on the MZ32AR0, quite a few full width slots. I would actually suggest that you could look at a Threadripper WRX80 platform and get 7 full wide slots and definitely a lot of PCIe compatibility with the, like I showed you this dude here. you can get a lot of additional PCIe compatibility out of just the M.2s that are on board there. So that's another option. As well, looking at some of the riser options for the MZ32AR0 specifically, and some of the 4i problems that I've found. I may have found a solution. I bought a piece of hardware, but it might allow us to cram 3 extra in there. This is like what actually needs to happen. It does sacrifice one of the full width lanes, but that's okay because I would get 4 at 4 instead of 1 at 16, and that would be something I would be willing to trade. Let's see, and Mark, Mr. A. How does this handle stable diffusion processing? This is the 24 gigabyte VRAM. The PCIe 3 impacts that you would have on the dual, I believe that was the dual 3060 that hit that allows you to have 24 gigabytes. Good for doing inference. However, you're, again, with stable diffusion, with video generation, with anything that is not basically inference related, you're definitely going to want to have a single GPU that has as much VRAM as possible. So $750, I would say find a way to make a 3090 happen is still the best, cheapest way to get a really good entrant into video generation. So definitely still a recommendation. Can you use the 9060 along with an AMD Instinct MI60 for AI video generation? Unless so niche question. Let me just say MI50, MI60, pairing that with a 9060, generationally those are very different. So I would assume most things are not going to pair super nicely. Good question, kind of. But definitely the 9060, it still falls into the same purview for video generation and for image generation as an NVIDIA, which is, it doesn't matter who the GPU maker is, the single fastest GPU you can get is what's going to perform the best for you until you get into a class like his H100s. I mean, certainly the RTX 6000, but you know, like $8,000 GPU or something like that. Tell me, do you like your energy bill? Yeah, actually, you know, I did a sarcastic reply. People think that it's insane. It is not insane. That's because when we bought this place, we bought it with not a little bit of forethought to having a lot of compute power in it. And I would urge people to consider that. If you are moving somewhere and your energy prices are biting you in the ass, let that happen to you once. And like having been an urban dweller, that bit me once. And now living in a place where literally not that far from an urban center and substantially lower electric rates is totally possible. It does need to influence your decision making if you plan to use a lot of electricity. And that was a huge factor for us when we purchased the place we bought. I'm at about a 10.25 or something like that cents delivered, fully delivered per kilowatt hour. So not bad at all. Mixwool, can you please make a video about the R740 XD? Well, this is a good chance for me to mention something about the R730 XD. So do not go past 2.17 for the BIOS and 2.838383 for the iDRAC. Oh my God. Talk about iDRAC hell. For some reason, the combo of those two updates on both of my R730 XDs nuked them. One of my R730 XDs I was able to recover. Very painfully, very insanely. You don't want to get into it. Levels of recovery had to go into that. So I cannot go with the R740 XD and make a video about it for one specific reason. I'm not going to buy an R740 XD because Dell removed the potential to use a IPMI script or something like that to control your fan curves on your terms. And instead, the R740 XD, all the 14th gen Dell stuff is going to run on Dell's terms. And Dell, while I liked them in the past very much for the fact that they, first off, give you open access to the software, firmwares, and stuff like that, unlike HP, so huge benefit to going with Dell's ecosystem there. The ability to control the fan curves is a non-negotiable for servers for me personally, and that's going to differ by different people. And if you have a really cold environment and you only use Dell branded cards and you keep everything very reasonable inside the machine, your fans on an R740 XD are not going to be howlers. But if you throw in a PCIe card that is, say, going to trigger the third party fan response, you're going to have a bad time because the fans are going to go to a minimum state of 50% if I'm not mistaken. So, and that might be what this person's experiencing. So I got one, but it's loud and I can't make the 4th or 5th fan quieter than 55% using an NVIDIA P2000. This is the problem. So one thing to check here, Mitsual Video. Can you disable PCIe third-party fan response? You may still be able to do that. I know for sure on the 14th gen Dells that you cannot, however, manually set your fans and use like a Docker image to like update it. I would cap out at the 730 XD. Personally, that's me. So I hope you got some of your questions answered as we get ready to see if we can mount Budzo into the rack here. But definitely, I am always around the first couple hours after a video drops answering questions, and sometimes I'll do a FAQ and kind of wrap up some of the stuff that I didn't get recently. And definitely you can look forward to more local AI content on this channel soon. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and a big shout out to our channel members.